Good evening, good evening, good evening. Come on in. I am Tamara L. Welcome to another episode of Just Another Messenger. I'm like excited and nervous at the same time. I tell you that Pluto in Capricorn has gotten me so excited. Check into that, and especially being a Libra, whew, we finally get a break now. Now, welcome again to another episode of Just Another Messenger. Now, each episode dives deep into the past, examining the philosophies, systems, and decisions that continue to influence our world today. By connecting historical content to contemporary issues, we aim to spark thought provoking conversations as well as encourage a deeper understanding of how history impacts current events, culture, and social norms. Now, stay tuned. Stay tuned. This is going to be a very impactful episode this evening, episode number 5, as we uncover the roots and offer meaningful insights to help you navigate and reflect on the complexity of today with a little bit of humor as we go along today. Now, don't forget. Now, please don't forget. Our numbers are getting up there. Like I said, we're brand new. This is our new episode. Do not forget to click the subscribe, share, and like button to be a part of the conversation. You wouldn't want to miss it. I tell you, this today's episode is called Broken Classrooms: How Miseducation Has Failed Us All. I am so excited about this topic. This is something that I've always wanted to have a conversation about because it is something in our community and even as of today that creates systemic problems in economic. It creates an economic pandemic in that. Now, this episode today called Broken Classroom: How Miseducation Has Failed Us All. America's education system is definitely in a crisis. Now, we have outdated curriculums, we have inadequate funding, as well as a systematic neglect, leaving our students, countless students behind. I mean, in the inner cities as well as in suburban. This is not just the inner city problem. This is a nationwide problem in America. Now, let's keep in mind what we're going to do. We're going to explore how these broken classrooms has deepened social divides as well as perpetuated inequality and robbed communities of their full potential. Now, when they say full potential, we're talking about being able to have economic viability in the market, being able to have adequate housing, being able to gain access to areas that are open to you with proper knowledge and education. So we're going to get into that. Now, just join in. I'm going to take our time. I love the PowerPoints. I know I've received great feedback regarding the PowerPoints because a lot of times it's easy to just get on the mic and talk and things of that nature. But if someone really don't have an understanding or grasp of how you're putting the information together and where it's coming from and how it's derived, it kind of loses its flavor. It loses its sauce. So that's why we're going to go ahead and get that started for you. Get this pulled up so that way we can just open up this dialogue here. Broken Classrooms Review: How Miseducation Fails Us All. Now, let's get into this. I love this. I got to give you this disclaimer first. The views, opinions, and thoughts are the protective expression of Tamara L. for storytelling and educational purpose and does not provide statutory counseling for any United States color of law jurisdictional proceeding. Because sometimes I talk about legal information and its connection. I talk about the past, how the foundation of the legal information is formed, and I talk about its current effects. Now, keep in mind, we can have this educational conversation about it. It makes it right and exact. But I implore everyone to go do your own due diligence of that because that's what government is. Government means to govern the mental. Now, to talk also about the pyramid, the four pyramid, which is the basis of how civilizations operate. And we talked about the God principles. We talk about the law, which is jurisprudence, as well as negative law, which is statutory codes and ordinance. We talk about language, how the language has changed from being etymology, which is the true science meaning of word, which is semantics, which is the connotation, which is the meaning of the words. We also talk about the people within the society and their status within the society and how that has changed over time. So let's get into that right here. Now, I love this. I love this statement by Marcus Garvey. And he states, if you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. Now, we talked about this last week in the no confidence um, broadcast episode, and how there's the rising call for the Black community to rise up with the confidence. And the reason why I wanted to also bring this information up again, when I was looking at what was the thought process of Marcus Garvey when he wrote this. Now, it says that this quote means that giving up before trying is like losing twice. That is epic. Losing twice. It starts in the mind. It starts in the mind. So when you set your mind to something that you want to start and don't apply it, you have literally failed yourself twice. I thought this is a great quote to remind yourself. Just get started. And it's okay to fail in things, but as long as you get started, you can just keep trying because nothing ever succeeds on this first try. Now let's look at the meaning of education here. What is education? Let's get into that. The etymological meaning of that, like I talk about, etymological is the true science and meaning of the word. Now, the word education is derived from the Latin word educare, educare, and educatum. Now, educare means to bring up or to nourish, which means, i.e., for example, a child is to be taught, is to be brought up while keeping in view certain aims and ideals. Now, educare means to draw out, to lead out, which means it's like that's what's in you. That's what we talk about, having that confidence. That's what's already in you. It's like if you study like religious texts, and there is a metaphysical Bible, and you look up the word baptism. Now the baptism that is demonstrated in the religious organization, that is a demonstration of baptism, means the pouring on you to wash things away. Now, a metaphysical baptism is what was put in you, such as indoctrination from your environment. And the metaphysical baptism is what's already in you, innate, that's God given, that comes up through you and allow you to operate in it. So that's the medical physical definition of baptism. So when we look up the word educare, means to bring out or to nourish, to draw. Educare means to draw out or to lead out what's already in you. Is what is best for the child or a man or a wound man. So what is already in you can come up and come out if the indoctrination has not heavily sedated a person. So let's look at educatum, means the act of teaching or the act of training. Education is teaching the child or training him for the best. Now, educatum as well as indoctrination follows the same line path. Let's look at this. Let's look at the word indoctrination. Now, indoctrination is the process of inculcating, teaching a person or a group of people a set of ideals, beliefs until they accept them without questioning. So, what happens is that when the classroom process, it has leaned more from an indoctrination, from a education standpoint, which is grooming what you have divinely in you to flourish and grow. It has moved away from the education model, but even though it's named education, the acting process has moved away from the education and it moved into the indoctrination, because in the system, in the school system, let's just say the school system, which we can go into that thought pattern as well as about the definition of school. Now, when you look into the school system model is created where the child really doesn't have what you call a um a method, a didactic method of communicating with the teacher. The teacher and the student conversation is not, well, based on the teacher provide the student information, and the student is now is able to utilize critical thinking to understand how this information was derived, where did this information, where is it derived from. The student is only accepting what the teacher is providing them through the curriculum, without thought and without any type of examination of the belief of it. So it's an indoctrination process that has been set up for over 100 years, right? So let's look and see how that occurred. Now, the original methods, some not original methods, some methods of learning in the American system consisted of informal learning, root learning, which is memorization, one room classroom houses, the monitorial system. Apprenticeships was one of a great way. That is innate ability leading out what's in you. Church schools, charity schools for the poor, private schools for the affluent. Now, and then they moved into, now, this is one area that's not talked about. This is one area that's not talked about a lot. Autodactic, autodidact. This area of autodidact, this area is encompasses with the educational model. Now, a person, and that is a person who has learned a subject without the benefit of a teacher or formal education. Now, I know there's information that when people say that Malcolm X had a great vernacular of words, right? Because he studied the dictionary. However, that's a method, and his speech improved from that. But there was areas missing because Malcolm X stayed into the semantics of the word. Whereas if he also had the ability to move into the etymological of the word, that changes also the content of the message and to be delivered in the sentence structure and its applicability. So all that changes when you move from the etymologically of the word to the semantics of the word. It changes the entire structure of what's being said and what could be understood. Now, the word autodactics comes, it combines two words, autodidact, I'm sorry. It combines two words. It combines auto, which is Greek for self, and didactism, which means learning. So it's like, therefore, autodactician is someone translate to be self-learning. Now, I talked about the movie Professor and the Madman, where they were creating the Oxford Dictionary, and they had and the Queen had to bring in someone who had a different viewpoint of the words. And this man, he came in and he felt that the professors of Oxford, they were only utilizing semantics of the word and not the archaic etymological of the words. Like I said, that's a great movie to go read and look at. Now, let's look at some of the top 15 autodidacts, right? I thought this was great when I found this information. Johnny Depp, Oprah Winfrey, Thomas Edison, George Gershon, Bill Gates, Walt Disney, Elon Musk, Cato Lomb, Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, Tim Ferriss, great book. Get this book, The 4 Hour Work Week. Bob Dylan, Albert Einstein, Stephen Pressfield, The Art of War, another great book. Go get that book. And James Cameron. these people have been identified as autodidacts because they had in the profession that they have perfected, they have been known to be self learners of that trade. And how do you go by this? There's the when you are looking at something to perfect and become proficient in it, there's you have to create a model that's in you to be able to pull that out. You evaluate that, you analyze, you apply, and you understand. Those are the methods of being a self learner without the formal education. Now, in 1902, by way of Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, and Frederick T. Gates. Now, Frederick T. Gates was an educator, and he was influential with working with John D. Rockefeller, not only in the educational side, in the education side of curriculum, but also in the medical and research portion as well. Now, I find this mission now in February 27, 1902, they created what you call the General Education Board was born on this day. There's a write up that Frederick T. Gates wrote called The Country School of Tomorrow. All right. Now let's look at this mission statement because we talked about the earlier methods of learning. We talked about the difference between education and indoctrination. But let's look at the motives behind the General Education Board. Now, keep in mind that this was during the agricultural period where people were mostly were rote learners by memorization, self-taught, church schools, being taught in that method in their communities. And they were able to create their own commerce and things of that nature. So this is the mission in which the Board of Education felt that they wanted to create an indoctrination model that moves away from the educational platform of understanding and learning. Now, this is what it reads. It states in all our dream, we have limited resources, and the people yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hand. The present educational conventions fade from their minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our good will upon a grateful and responsive rural folks. We shall not try to now. This is the most diabolical mission statement I've ever read of a corporation in my life. Now let's look at this. Now this is the setup for the fall, and this is what has created the broken classroom. So this is the broken classrooms is not just created recently, it's created from the onset of the foundation. See, everything starts at the foundation of its inception. This mission statement and how you want to now create the education and create it to a model of indoctrination, basically animal training. It's very diabolical. Look at the foundation of this. This is what they say. We work our own goodwill upon a grateful and responsive rural folks. We should not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers of men of learning or men of science. We have not to raise up from among them authors, editors, poets, or men of letters. We should not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply. So basically, he's saying that we already have that in our society. We have an ample supply of that. We're not looking to create that in any other race. All right, the task that we set before ourselves is very simple, as well as a very beautiful one. To train, to train these people as we find them to a perfectly idle life just where they are. So we will organize our children into a little community and teach them to do in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way in the homes, in the shops, and on the farms. So it's evidence that there's a method of commerce that is occurring in these rural communities. So you feel that the education that's being received is inadequate. So we're going to just train these people and mold them in our way. We're going to train them like animals and mold them in our way. So this is the inception of the broken classrooms before it even started. This is what broke the classrooms of education. The it's like a scheme. It's like a layered over scheme. Now, integration of schools. Let's look at this. Integration of school. There's two things that happen. There's two landmark cases that happen. This is also where the train just keeps going um, down the tracks. In 1896, the decision of Plessy versus Ferguson, which had held that racial segregation laws did not violate the U.S. Constitution as long as the facilities for each race were equal in quality, a doctrine that had come to be known as separate but equal. Now, everyone know that if you have a model and you're going to make sure that those school systems are much adequate in your community than they are in anyone else's community. So you have the landmark case with Brown versus the Board of Education. This occurred here by the U.S. Supreme Court that ruled that a U.S. state laws establishing racial segregation in public schools are unconstitutional, even if the segregated schools are otherwise equal in equality. Now you see here, this is like a photo of U.S. deputy marshals escorting a 6-year-old Ruby Bridges from William France Elementary School in New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, this first grader was the only Black child enrolled in the school. Now, she needed protection to go to school as well as to be able to leave school and make it home safe. Now, this integration of schools is one of the other methods in which broken classrooms start occurring in inner cities, in the inner urban community as well as rural communities as well. Integration in buses. Now, this is the one that really kind of hits home for me. Now, in 1968, the Warren Court in Green versus County School Board of New Kent County, and that's in Jersey, right? They rejected a freedom of choice plan. The court ordered the county to desegregate immediately and eliminate racial discrimination root and branch, right? Now, in 1971, the Berger Court in Swan versus Charlotte Mecklenburg Board of Education, now that's in North Carolina, ruled that the school district may achieve racial balance even if it meant redrawing school boundaries and the use of busing as a legal tool. Now, this is the part right here. Let me just share some information. This is the part. I am a product. I am a child that's a product of the school busing system. And in Georgia, in Atlanta, that school busing system was called minority to majority, which means that the people that was classified as minorities, that is a racial classification, just as Black, Negro, colored, African American. That is a racial classification to majority, which means that it's defined as in an area of higher status, correct? This didn't have anything to do with redistricting. It was not only was it a theft of intellectual minds, it also was a theft of um, the finances of the communities that the counties receive from the property taxes. It was a theft of that, because keep in mind that when children leave their community, they're taking off their community financial role for taxation, and they're placed on the taxation role in the community in which they're transferred to. So the money follows the child, correct? So I can remember being, and it started I want to say like the 8th grade when we moved. No, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't the eighth grade. It was in elementary school. I was 8 years old. And we moved to an area in our community. The school was very much so ran down. I'm not gonna say the name of the school. The school was very ran down in the area that we moved to. And even though you try to create friends in your new community, and when you don't go to school with them, especially elementary school, it's hard to create friendships in the community you just moved to because you don't see them every day. So I can recall we was at the bus stop like 5:30 in the morning, little 8-year old getting on the bus, and by the time we get to the school it's like 7:30. So it's taking us like 2 hours because by the time they go around to all the different communities in the city and pick up all the different schools. Now keep in mind, these schools that we were being transferred to and bused to, those schools were called schools of academic excellence. That's the name for them. It was called School of Academic Excellence. So now we're being it take about 2 hours for them to go around the city. And you're on, it's like you got one bus and you're going around the city and you're picking up all these children in these different inner cities area, and you're transporting them all the way on the other side of town, about a 45-minute commute, an hour commute by the time you go through and pick up all the children and have to deal with traffic. So by the time we get to school, it's like 7:30, 7:45. I've been on the bus since like 5:30 in the morning. So by the time you get back home from school, you don't have time. By the time school is out and you back on the bus, and it's taking you about another 2 to 3 hours to get dropped off back at home, you don't have time to communicate and create and foster relationships with people in your community. They see you as now an outsider, and it's like, you start being picked on as a child. It's like, oh, you talk white, you have perfect grammar. Look at your clothes is so neat and your clothes not dirty. Why is your hair, you get picked on as a child in your own community. And it's like it's the same thing that occur, like when people say, it's hard to trust people that sleep white but fight black. You have that dichotomy that goes on. It's the same thing for children who are bused to out of their community into other school systems that's not a part of the community. You don't create any type of relationship in your community with the people that you're right next door to, because on the weekends they don't want to play with you, they don't like you, they don't know you. And then at the school that you're being transferred to, you don't create friendships with the diversified children that are there. They don't like you, they don't know you, you're not really a part of their community either, you're just forced to be there. And the only time that they have a liking to you is when like you're on the same basketball team or you on the same track team. So you're only a teammate or likable during that time period when we need to win this game, we need to win this track meet, we need to win this football game. That's when you're liked at the diverse school outside of your community. Other than that, you really hadn't created any type of friendship outside of that with the people in that community as well. So you end up feeling like a lost child in the world trying to find yourself. I'm not liked amongst my people, and I'm not liked outside of my people. And even and then you become the person to try to fight as hard for your people, and you're met with those rejections just from a child. So that's one of the areas that really bothered me as a child. That program, it has stuck with me for like years and when they disbanded the program, I was happy because I know now children will probably get the opportunity to create some meaningful friendships and things along that way. Like, I don't have any friends from my community, any friends from my childhood community, because I was bussed out from the age of 8 years old till I graduated from high school. I was a child of the program of the integration of busing program. So, which and then those schools in our community, they did not have the same opportunities that I was able to experience in a diversified school. I saw the effects of that. I saw when I came back, those schools, they didn't have science rooms, they didn't have astrology rooms, they didn't have typewriters. But I'm telling my age, I'm 51. So we was on typewriters. They didn't have access to any of those things. They didn't have access to a library system that had a diverse range of books and things of that nature, just to be able to expand your mind. So, you saw those things with the people that you lived in the community with, but you couldn't do anything because you're a child. So this is why this episode is just so important for me to be able to express the importance of taking back the community and being able to, build those community schools back up to be able to build the confidence in the minds in the communities. All right. I'm off my soapbox with that. That just very hit hard for me. All right. So, inner city school genocide. Inner city school genocide. This is what has occurred with integration in the school, as well as integration in the busing. It has created inner city genocide of the school. Now let's look at this. Now, there's a book that it's called Shame of the Nation. And this is by Jonathan Cole, and it's The Restoration of the Apartheid School in America by Jonathan Cole. Really great book. I came into this book about a couple of years back, because education has been a stickler for me. I love to teach. I love to share knowledge. I love to open up the mind of not only myself, but others, and to help us to understand these tricks and traps that we have been indoctrinated in, and to help us to be able to get true freedom from these things. Now, there's another book I like to share with you. Now, I really haven't gotten much into this book. It's a slow burn read, but it's a really good read. I'm not gonna say it's a really good read. And this one is called Lies My Teacher Told Me: Everything Your American History Textbook Got Wrong by James W. Lowen. This is a really great book as well. Um, slow burn, slow burn. So take your time, enjoy. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about Shame of the Nation: The Restoration of Apartheid School in America by Jonathan Cole. Let's look at this. Now, he talks about segregation in school. He said the schools that were already deeply segregated 25 or 30 years ago are no less segregated now, while thousands of schools around the country that had been integrated either voluntarily or by the force of law has since been rapidly resegregating. That is that's what I was just trying to express here. Now, this segregation integration occurred. When this occurred, I it was like a project. I'm not sure it was a financial project. I'm not sure it was a project to try to integrate America due to the racial divide that was going on in the country. But this project that's been going on for years, from the agricultural society to now we have what you call the AI information. And there's a great divide that's going on there. You know, the integration of schools, like I said, when you get to schools and that's not of your community, there is a segregation that takes place at that school system, because the racism still exists. I don't care how one tried to create a model of integrating and coming together. The bottom line is the foundation of racism just has not, it's not went away. It's not went away. So just putting your child or putting your children or just somewhere else and thinking, okay, that will solve racism. It has not solved racism. It actually magnifies it, because once you're in the school that's not of your community and you're not perceived as being of that community, you have a segregation that occurred there. So also when you get to that school that's not of your community, all the little all the little black kids huddle up. They huddle up for safety. We get to know each other. Hey, what side of town are you from? What side of town are you from? They huddle up and they create their own little secret club of protection, because you don't know, so that's the experience. And it's still, so integration is not a great project. It's been one of the most horrible projects in the education system. Now let's look at, and he talks about on an unequal funding. Now I say the value of education is measured in dollars. I talked about that. When the child move, the dollars move with the child. So there's serious less funding in that community in which the child has left. So just imagine, okay, we're gonna say if you look at the cost per child, let's just put a number on it. Let's just say 5,000 a year. Let's just say that. We're just going to play with some numbers. Let's just say it costs $5,000 a year to educate a child. All right. So let's just say there's 2 children in that household. My mother had 3. So 3 children in that household. All 3 are now being bussed out of the community school. So they're taking off the role of the community school, which means the cost for those 3 children in that household, that cost is now being applied in another community of which those children does not live in. They're only going to school there Monday through Friday. So the entire cost, educational, I'm sorry, excuse me, the entire educational cost is being transferred with those children, which means that that's money that's being subtracted from the role of the community, and that's less funding that neighborhood or community school in which the child has came from. They're now suffering in that community. They're suffering because of this integration from minority to majority program. Those children, those schools, those children are left in those inner city schools are now suffering and at the mercy of this program, and lack of funding occur. All right. Now, he said the value of education is measured in dollars by the district in which it is provided. Richer districts can afford smaller class, advanced placement courses, and extracurricular activities. Poor districts cannot. All right. They cannot afford, poor districts cannot afford extracurricular activities. I played basketball and ran track. So I can recall I played basketball from the 8th grade, because when I was in school, we didn't have middle school. The school I went to, high school started in the 8th grade. So from the 8th grade to the 12th grade, I played basketball and ran track. But guess what guess what my mother didn't have to do? She never had to buy sneakers. She never had to buy cleats. She never had to buy a book bag for a gym bag. She never had to buy tracksuit. She never had to purchase, make sure I was able to get to the school for the games that was on the weekend. She never had to make sure I got home safe. She never had to make sure I had adequate food to eat when I was going to games. Because guess what? If we had home games before the games, we had a room that we went to, and there was food lined up in there to eat. I had when there was the beginning of the season for basketball, when you had a cheerleader that was assigned to you. They would decorate your lockers, and when you open your lockers, everybody opened their lockers because we was proud. I'm not even gonna say the name of my schools because I went to 2 different high schools, and guess what? Both of my high school was school of academic excellence and performing arts and academic excellence. I'm not even gonna say the name of them, right? But guess what? When you open your locker room, guess what happened? You had your book bag in there, and and not your book bag, I'm sorry, your gym bag in there, separate from your book bag. You had your gym bag in there, and your gym bag had the logo on the school of it. Inside already had your sneakers with your proper size, what size shoe you wear. You had your two uniforms. You had your home uniform and you had your away uniform. Then you had your track suit that you wear, which they call joggers, warmers. We call them track suits. You had that all nicely packaged in your bag. You had snacks in your bag. You had all this in your bag. And when you went away, the day that you had an away game, you had a cooler full of food. You had a cooler full of food. So my mother never had to worry about that because the type of school I went to. Now, I remember children in my school, they would have to go stand on the corner, fundraise, almost about to get ran over by cars, trying to get $1, in the intersections of 20, 75 on the ramps with their what you call that, with their helmet or either a bucket. They had to raise money just to be able to get a tracksuit, a duffel bag, or their game uniforms or things of that nature. We had sponsors at our school. I'm talking about corporate sponsors, and I'm not even going to say the name of those corporate sponsors. So that I saw those things happen, and it breaks my heart when I see those things are not able to be in the inner city schools as well. I saw that, and I still see it today. Anytime I see those children, it boils my skin. I mean, when I see those children standing on a corner, still doing the same thing that those inner city children had to do just to be able to wear a uniform to play a sport or extracurricular activity, it literally boils my skin till this day, because it's the same broken classroom inner city genocide that is going on today, 2024. It's still occurring. Now, talking about on the dehumanizing impact or standardized testing. There's an obsession focused on testing, and it has turned children to numbers, striping away their inability and undermining the joy of learning. I didn't have this problem. I was in a program. My first 2 years, I went to, like I said, one school is academic excellence. Now, 10th, 11th, 12th, I went to a more advanced, oh my God, up to do school. Like, yeah, they got money out there. Let me tell you what, this is one of the things that really very important. We was talking about standardized testing. We didn't have standardized testing. We didn't have that. That did not occur. We had what you called we was all everyone was assigned in order to go to this school, right? You had to be assigned to either be athletic or academic excellent. You heard me. Every child at this school that I went to from 10th, 11th, and 12th till I graduated, every student had to be coded to either be academic or athletic excellence. I was both. I was double, which means that I was in a program called Future Business Leaders of America. We took classes like we some of our classes was like debating. Which means it's dealt with the critical thinking, being able to foster communication with other people, being able to have dialogue. We had debating, we had debate classes, we had debate team. There's other classes we had, such as stock market, stock market class. Yeah. So we had those type of curriculum at these facilities that I'd never heard went on in inner city schools. I never heard of those. Even to this day, I never heard of that taking place in inner city schools. And when you reach a certain level, like in 11th grade, you get coded to a corporation. Like I was coded, my first corporate job was in the 11th grade, and I worked for Center for Disease Control. 11th grade, I was employed at Center for Disease Control. I don't know anyone that lived in my community in the 11th grade that worked at corporations. There's a problem here. There's broken classrooms. It's failed us all. There's broken classrooms here. Now let's talk about other thing on racism in education. Young children of color consigned to grimy resource schools are taught to measure their worth by how they perform on tests designed by people who have little understanding of their lives. Yeah, someone came to school hungry. Someone came to school not with proper clothes on, so they're getting picked on and they can't think straight. They're ashamed. So yeah, it's kind of tough. On hope and resistance. The fight for fair and equal education is not over. It requires a national awakening to the promise that were made but not yet fulfilled. This is a great book, The Shame of the Nation. It really give highlight and understanding to the need for course correction in the school system. There is course correction that is needed from 1902, from its inception. And if we don't correct this course, we're going to continue to create a society that now that will operate in a worse fashion of self-preservation. They will operate in the Darwinism of self-preservation and a dog eat dog society, because the society has gotten worse because of trying to survive. And that's because that innate talent that's within each and every one of us is not being stirred up. It's not being measured. It's not being put to test. It's not being brought out. The level of creation has diminished. The creativity has gone to more corporate structure as opposed to individual creation that has helped and shaped the society. Now, great, this is a great, excellent book called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. Let's examine what Mr. Woodson say about education, on miseducation. He say, if you can control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man should think, you do not have to you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. If you make a man feel that he is inferior, you do not have to compel him to accept an inferior status. He will seek it himself. Then we talked about confidence. You failed in confidence twice. That's how you fail in confidence twice. Indoctrination, by not starting. hmm hmm So a lot of times people will say that, there's this misnomer. There's this misnomer that if one has went to higher levels of education, that they are above the ones that hadn't. And I have challenged that to be not true. I've definitely challenged that to be not true. And I'm gonna tell you why I tell you that's not true. Common sense beats book sense any day of the week. I hold a master's degree. I have an associate's, bachelor's, and master's, and I was going to move forward with the PhD. And I remember on the day of my master's degree, I said, this is not it. There was something that was missing. That autodidact, which is self-taught, self-learning, education, stirring up what's already in me, was missing. And I had to go on a quest to start stirring up my gift. that was in me and step away. Now, the books are great to understand and to create the foundation of knowledge. I'm not taking away from that, but there's something that's already within us, and that's our innate ability to be able to move and breathe and create, you know, that no one can teach any of us that. Each one of us has our own unique signature. No one can teach us that. So, yes. Now, this passage highlights how miseducation shapes individuals' beliefs and actions, often to their own detriment. Now, let's look at what Mr. Woodson talked about on education and freedom. He said the so-called modern education, with all its defects, nevertheless does others so much more good than it does the Negro, because it has been worked out in conformity to the needs of those who have enslaved and oppressed weaker people. Now, Woodson critiques the system for failing to equip African Americans with the tools needed for the liberation of self-determination. Self-determination. Wow, we're going to get into self-determination. What is self-determination? Self-determination is knowing who you are, your consanguinity, your blood. That is blood, conswaying, the blood, where you come from, where you derived from, the power that was possessed. Now, a lot of times in the African American community, they like to keep you at 1609, and that date is wrong. They like to keep you at 1619. That date is wrong. They like to keep you at colonization. That is wrong. We're going to back that thing all the way up when you were in power in your greatness. So when you can't see the power of that's within you, that was once manifested in the society that you were a part of, it's hard. It becomes the detriment to rise up and to be that. So you will continue to have an argument of, oh, we were descendants of slaves. You will continue to have that argument over and over and over and keep you in a cycle of slavery mentality and not thriving, to return to a space and time where your ancestors and foremothers and forefathers thrived and created and built. There's nothing new under the sun. So everything you see today, I'm pretty sure when you go deeper into this understanding, it was created by your foremothers and forefathers and your ancestors. We have to see the greatness once again. We must see the greatness and the power. And this is not a slight. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, race, that's racist, that's racist. Let me say something to you. Now, when the people say, oh, the, white superiority, when are you going to see the superiority within self? When are you going to say black superiority? Now, I'm a little mad because I feel that you're not racist enough. You don't see the power and the importance of being able to see someone that look like you and I to say, hey, I matter. I'm superior to this earth plane, to this universe. I can operate in a higher dimension. That's not a slight to someone else that doesn't look like you, because we're all one in the spectrum of it. So why think so lowly of self? Why would you say white superiority? That doesn't make sense. Why are you saying that you're less than anything else when you're more than that? Yeah, you are more than that. And we're going to get to that in understanding self-determination. You have a right to self-determine who you are and what you stand for. Now, this was Mr. Woodson states on economic independence. He said the Negro must learn to put first things first. The Negro must have a business of his own and let others get what they can. Now, this emphasized the importance of economic self-sufficiency and building community wealth as a foundation for empowerment. On self-knowledge, if you teach the Negro that he has accomplished as much good as any other race, he will aspire to equality and justice without regard to race. Did I just say it? Race wouldn't even be a factor. Race would not even be a factor. Let me tell you what becomes the new race. The new race is just greatness. It would not even be about the color of your skin or the content of your character. It will be about the greatness that's in you, the divinity that's in you. There's greater in you that's in the world. That's what it be about. And there is not a color to your divinity. Greatness does not have a color. It does not have a hue. I'm not black. I'm not, my hue is probably brown. And I think it's for a reason. Because I like to demonstrate to people. And yeah, this is a sleeve. This is a tattoo sleeve that goes all the way up. I put this because a lot of people say they would define themselves as black. Now, I don't know how you can define yourself as black when I have black ink on brown skin. So that should make you really have a critical thought as what is this thing called black? We're going to get into that. That's dealing with self-determination. We're going to get into all that. All right. Now, like I said, the race would not be given to Swift. The racial construct would not exist about phenotypes, about hue of the skin. That would not exist. When divinity rise up, all that goes away. What did Mr. Carter G. Woodson say on leadership and representation? He said the large majorities of Negroes who have put on the finishing touches of our best colleges are all but worthless in the development of their people. Here, Woodson criticized the educated elite for often being disconnected from the struggles and needs of the broader African American community. I agree with that. I 1,000% agree with that. We have societies. Um, we have societies in the Black community, the African American community, the Moorish community, the Negro community. Now I'm using these racial constructs for a reason. We have these societies. They call boule societies. Fraternities, sororities. They have, and a lot of these are at the collegiate level, higher education level of academia. So, which means you have to go through that portal in order to be a part of these societies. This is where they started at. So they have created this method of elitism. Like, in order to be able to be a part of this society, you either through the fraternity or sorority, or either the societies that are created, the class groups that are created, that you have to be at a certain level to even have a seat at the table, to create your posture. I remember just the other day, the guy said, Tamara, you wrote something wrong on Facebook. I know you're a woman of great grammar and words, and I wasn't expecting you to make an error. I was like, brother, I'm the chick that can play in the back rooms and the boardrooms. So yeah, it depends on the audience who I'm talking to. I've never, one of the things that people like, oh, why you never put, your comma and your letters behind your name? Because I attained my masters. My masters do not have me. That's why I don't have to wear it like Greek letters across my chest. I know who I am, and I know the direction I'm going. And I love to be able to communicate with people at whatever level they're at, and to be able to raise the frequency and vibration, and to be able to help explore the areas within them that needs to be set ablaze, and to be able to rise up from the ashes. So that's how I operate. I never allow letters to define who I am, and that has been a problem in the African American community. People has allowed these classes, they allowed these societies, they allowed these Greek fraternities, these for fraternities and sororities, and business clubs to define who they are, at the same time leaving behind the community in which helped them and cheered them on along the way, and probably helped funded them as well. You left your people behind. It's time for you to turn back around and go help save the people that helped you. That's what it's that time for. Now, these excerpts collectively reflect Wilson's critique of the education system and his vision for empowering African Americans through cultural pride, self-reliance, and purposeful education. That's the goal. That is the goal and solution. That is the goal and solution. Now that we understand how the broken classrooms occurred, we see the methods along the way through the integration of the busing, the integration of the school system, as well as the separation in the classism that has occurred along the way. We have to now look at ways, these are solutions of corrective course correction. We must create these course corrections, or we are doomed as a society as a whole. And I bring you to this. Recently, Donald Trump, he won, one of the goals is Project 47, which is the elimination of the board of education. I hope this play. I really do hope this play. Let me see if this play. All right, this is not going to play. I wanted to play this link. I should have pulled it in wrong, but I wanted to play this link where he talked about the board of education, the education system, and elimination of the board of education, and why it's important. I wanted to play this, and I am kicking myself because I thought it was really good. Let me see here. Let me see if I can pull it up this way. Let me see if I can pull it up this way, because I think this is very important to hear, and why it's important for the education. Well, I think it's important for the education system to be removed federally from the federal appropriation of funds. And let's get this clear. Let's get this very clear about what is being said here about the Board of Education. President-elect Trump, Project 47 plan is not saying, oh, just get rid of the education system. Everybody just run around here like dummies and just do whatever they want to. That is not the message. Now, in the federal government, there's an appropriation of funds for categories of war, healthcare, lots of things. You have to go. Now, I was just on the congress.gov site, and there's 118 bills from 2023 to 2024 that's still in the House. I just looked at it last night because I like to read the bills that are coming up that's out there. You have to get into doing that. Now, what he's saying is that the General Education Board, the Board of Education, will no longer be a part of the federal appropriation of funding. We're kicking that down to the state level, and the states are now responsible for proper funding, curriculum, creating measures for success. So, which means that your state representatives are now responsible for doing the work and getting the work done. Your elected officials, your board of education officials, the local level, they're now responsible for the proper allocation of funds and getting the work done. That's the message is being said. And I hate when people misread the message because they, oh, shit. That's sorry. Sorry, y'all. That just drives me crazy. So let me see here. I'm trying to see if I can share my screen. Share screen. Let me see. It'll allow me to do that. Entire screen. Let me see if I can do that. And I can pull this up. Entire screen. This is something new. I hope I'm not doing it. But I don't jack anything up. All right. StreamYard, move out the way. This is not working. Let me see here. All right. All right. Let's see here. I'm hoping I can get this. Is that it? Downloads. I'm sorry. Bear with me. I definitely want you guys to look at this or listen to it. Look at this. Where is it at? That's not it. All right, just bear with me one moment. This is not working. Okay, this is crazy. All right. All right, let me go into this folder. I know I pulled it down yesterday. All right. That's not it. That's not it. All right, let me see if I can go in here. Will it pull it up from here? All right. All right, let me see here. Put it up.
President-elect Donald Trump has repeatedly vowed to shutter the federal Department of Education and regulate all educational responsibility to individual states, a move that could impact crucial funding for K-12 schools and hamper civil rights enforcement. But experts warn it's unlikely the federal government will be able to be hands-off when it comes to education regulation, even if the department is closed. Trump has called the Department of Education, which was created in 1979 by Jimmy Carter, an example of government oversight into the daily lives of Americans. He suggested it's been a poor investment for taxpayers, claiming the U.S. spends 3 times more money on education than any other nation, quote, and yet we are absolutely at the bottom. We're one of the worst. Billionaire Elon Musk, a Trump superdaughter who is expected to hold some kind of role in his next administration, on Monday called closing the Department of Education a, quote, good idea. While closing the Department of Education seems to be high on the priority list for Trump, his Agenda 47 proposals surrounding education also outline orders for schools that would no longer be the federal government's purview if all responsibilities were handed back to the states, including cutting funding for any school teaching critical race theory or, quote, transgender insanity, and credentialing teachers who, quote, embrace patriotic values and support the American way of life. Ronald Reagan campaigned on getting rid of it in 1980. Bob Dole argued in favor of eliminating it during his 1996 Republican presidential campaign against Bill Clinton, and both Senators Ted Cruz and Rand Paul called for its elimination in 2015. For more on this story, check out Mary Whitfield Roloff's article in the link in the description. President-elect.
Wow. I hope everyone heard that. Like, I really do. Did everyone hear that? I hope that video was well heard and well understood. So I thank you for tuning in to Just Another Messenger as we dissect broken classroom and how miseducation has failed us all. Now, keep in mind that um, Just Another Messenger is tune in every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're not monetized on YouTube, and I don't have any plans on monetizing on YouTube because certain things will cause your page to be taken down. I've already had 2 pages taken down before, and I do not plan on having this one taken down. So I'm not monetizing on YouTube. So please support the page as we grow at Cash App at $ Just Another Messenger. Now you can also, if you'd like to communicate, I'm looking for other messengers to join in and we can really dialogue on topics and conversations and get into the historical content of it and show the connection to its days, events, and how it affects us today. Now, please, you can send an email to just another messenger podcast at gmail.com. You know, this is a great show. I really did enjoy it. I thank everyone for tuning in. And so, in helping to create a viable solution as we move forward to course correct these broken classroom. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Just Another Messenger. And I bid you farewell and have a great evening. Good night.